Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my new podcast, Ask Me Anything. Through plenty of ups and downs in my life and have learned a lot along the way. But now that I've got a midlife crisis reinvention under my belt, I know it's never too late to learn something new. That's why on this podcast, I'm going to be talking to Kiwis from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions and maybe even a few frivolous ones too. So joining me today is a woman who is passionate about education, particularly in the areas of science and engineering. Her life mission is to remove the barriers and make these subjects fun and accessible to all of us. And as we'll learn later, she has a very personal reason for that. She has a PhD in biomedical and materials engineering. That sounds rather impressive, doesn't it? She's an author, science communicator, podcast host, and co-founder of Nano Girl Labs. You, of course, know that it is the wonderful Dr Michelle Dickinson. Hello, Michelle.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you.
Well, it's very good of you to come and join me. So the first thing I do is I say that I have two rules for my podcast. The first is I am allowed to ask you anything, but you don't have to answer.
Sounds like a fair game. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, good. And the second is that this is a safe space and we do no judgy zone.
Cool.
My
That's
daughter
good.
and I always say that, no judgy.
Perfect.
You're allowed to chat, but no judging.
Okay, we're in.
Good. Okay. So the topic we're going to chat to Michelle about is around education, and more specifically, those people that don't necessarily fit within the education system. And Michelle is going to share with us something she's never made public before, and it's something I think that might surprise many of you. But first, we like to start off with some icebreaker questions. So are you ready, Michelle?
I think so, Paula.
Easy one. Favourite book as a child or recently?
So I became a nanotechnologist because I read a book called Prey by Michael Crichton. He also wrote Jurassic Park, and it was all about nanobots taking over people's brains, and I was like, that's what I want to do.
Really?
Yeah, use science for evil.
How old have you been then?
Yeah, teenage. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, a favourite meal? Because we can tell people that you're very pregnant at the moment. So is there something you've been craving?
So I'm half Asian by nature, and so there's a dish, it's called hor fun, which is like white rice noodles all with like oyster sauce and stuff stir-fried. That's my big thing to cook and go to right now.
And you're married?
Married to Joe.
And who asked who out?
Oh, I thought he would, yeah. When we met, I didn't like him as much as he liked me. It probably took him a year of constantly being like, what are you doing to go on a date? Da-da-da-da-da. I was like, nah, not interested. And he's very persistent. You know, Joe.
I do know
He's very
Joe.
Persistent. And yeah, it was probably a year and a half before we went on one date. And I was like, I'm not sure. And then he went home after that date and said, I've met the woman I was going to marry. And I went home and was like, I went out for dinner. It was all right. But here we are, I'm married. It took a while, but yeah.
Oh, good on him. Good on him. See, he knew what he wanted.
He knew, he persisted, and it worked.
Wow. Okay, so twins. Have you found out the genders?
No.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a surprise.
Do you have a feeling?
No idea.
None.
It's great. There are so few surprises left in life. Yeah, we just don't know. We just feel like let it be what it is.
Well, I like that. And that's fair enough, I think. Absolutely. Just an interesting one. So I was a 17-year-old mum, and that was in 1987, just to say how far we've come. And because I was young and a solo mum, they wouldn't not just tell me the gender of the baby, they wouldn't even let me look at the scan.
It's crazy.
Because they didn't want me to get too emotionally attached because I may adopt even though I wasn't going to.
It's so different. My parents were teenage parents and, not treated like they even knew what they were doing. And I am a super old mum. So, I'm 43, having my first children. So opposite end of the spectrum to you. But
I love that because I've got friends that are, have had babies that are around your age as well. And so I've just kind of had to have I've just had the joy of having all these children in my life, like all through my life. And as you say, it's just completely different. And
totally. And you've got 2 free arms, so I will be calling you to hold some babies very soon.
Well, I think that segues us nicely into the next part of our chat, where I want to get to know you a little bit better. As I said, you're very pregnant, and it's been a long, long time for you and Joe to get to this point. Yeah. It's been a bit of a journey.
Almost 8 years. And we did what everybody does normally. You know, we were in our early 30s. So Joe was in his early 30s. I'm slightly older than him, but I was in my mid 30s, and you just try naturally and you go, great, I've been trying not to get pregnant my whole life. We're going to come off contraception. We're going to time the things. It's all going to be good. And 2 years later, nothing had happened. So we were like, we'd probably go see somebody about it. Did all the tests. They all came out great. Didn't know what's wrong with us. We call it unexplained infertility, which is worse because there's no thing that you can do. And they were like, okay, well, we'll start some fertility treatment. I'm like, great. We're like, we'll just go all in. Like, what's the most we can do up front? So we did IVF straight away. We did, we were on our 8th round, gave us our babies, but yeah, multiple rounds where we got pregnant, but then we lost them, or we didn't get, it's a horrible roller coaster of hormones and finances and no holidays, because this year's holiday is going on another IVF round, and the waiting and the blood tests, and it's a journey that many people are on silently, and not always a journey that comes with great outcomes. And obviously, like I said, we've lost some babies, and so we didn't announce this pregnancy till we were 7 months, because I was so afraid that the second I made it public, we were going to lose the babies again. So it's been quite a cautious journey for us. But now we're at the stage where they're viable. Yeah. And they're kicking me right now, so they're obviously enjoying themselves. But it's, up to 1 in 4 couples in New Zealand are suffering with infertility, and we don't have these big conversations. So Joe and I are very open about our journey and how we actually, as a society, it shouldn't be taboo anymore, and it should be okay to go to your doctors early and actually learn about some of this stuff, because your sex ed in school was all about how do you not get pregnant, and not how your body works.
Yeah, that's very true. And then, so you as a couple going through that, I mean, there must have been times when you were both at different emotional places and then together, and I can just imagine what it also does to a relationship would be.
It's hard on a relationship. It's also hard because you have very different experiences of it. So my experience is very... Like, I knew I was pregnant when I was pregnant every time, and then losing a baby, like, it's devastating. Joe always said it felt really hard because he never got to feel that or connect to that. So yes, you see the positive pregnancy test and the blood test, but there's no physical connection, and he couldn't do the injection. He felt very isolated sometimes. And then his devastation was very different to mine, because mine was a physical pain as well as a mental one. For him, it was very, who do I talk to about this? How do I support my partner? But not physically go through all these hormone changes. So it's trying. And I always say to people, if you're going through it, make sure you've got good support around you, because your roller coaster, your hormones are going to hurt you anyway, but it is a roller coaster.
And there'd be times where, with his own grief, I'm sure, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but knowing Joe, that he would be wanting to support you, and then and so much, and then still going through his own, and 100%. Not wanting to feel selfish by focusing on himself a bit. He'd want to, I imagine, focus on you a lot, and so that's a lot for you both to go through.
It's a huge strain and stress. And then what do you do next? There's always that period after you have an unsuccessful IVF. You've put everything in it. You've been doing this for months, and then you don't have the outcome that you want. Do you keep going, or do you stop? And those are the hardest. We've had that conversation many, many times. Is this the last round? Can we afford another one? Can we mentally go through and and then if you do, knowing you're going to have to start all over again, there's the bottom of the roller coaster is really deep. And you have to have, I think, a very strong and good communication in your relationship to be able to openly go, this is what I'm feeling today, and it might not be what I'm feeling tomorrow. How do we give ourselves enough time to heal and also know what moving on looks like for us?
Did you have some crazy people that would give you crazy advice?
Yeah, really unhelpful.
Yeah, I was going to say, and all of that, if you just relaxed and all happen.
Oh, Michelle, because you work too hard. I'm like, but people work, you know what I mean? I don't work, just all there. You go to the gym too much. Oh, you're too sporty. I'm not just okay. We've done a lot of science here. There's lots of people who do sports who get pregnant. Lots of really unhelpful. And I know they're trying to be helpful, but it really hurt, especially when we'd lost a baby and they'd tell me why it was, and they had their opinion of it's because da-da-da. And you go, do you know what? I just need you to go, wow, that must really suck. That's all I need. I don't need your advice.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Then, if you were giving advice to family members or friends that have got family members or friends going through it, then what is that level of support that you want?
Just say, it must be, I cannot imagine what you're going through right now. If there is anything I can do to support you, please let me know.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
They don't need your advice.
No.
They don't need your thoughts. They've got plenty of their own thoughts, and not all of them are good. Give us time to process, and we'll come out when we're ready.
So my advice when you have the babies, I tell anyone that asks me that you can't overlove a baby. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all my advice is.
Great. That's perfect. Well, the great thing about twins and being a scientist is I've sort of got one I can test on and then one I can just use as a control.
My goodness, you can.
So I could overlove one if it's too much. Just love the next one a little bit less.
What an amazing journey. And we just wish you all the best and heaps of laughter and lots of all of that love for these babies, because they're going to have a great time. Okay, let's. I'm just going to jump right over now into Nano Girl Labs and all of the amazing work that you've done there. So you worked in academia for about 2 decades, is that right?
I probably worked there for 1 decade. I worked a lot in the high-tech sector when I was in America for another decade. So, I sort of switched it between big industry contracts, and then I came to New Zealand and worked at the University of Auckland in academia.
And so you're kind of our celebrity scientist.
It's weird, isn't it?
Hey, yeah. So how did, that path is kind of fascinating. I mean, so you've obviously that passion for science, and you ooze it, to be honest, and
it's frustration more than... passion is there, but it's frustration. It is... So I'm an engineer by training, and I was an engineer for 20 years, and I just never saw people who looked like me, who had a background like mine, represented in those fields. And having been an engineer for so long, I was never working in spaces where there were people like me. They were, and we know that there's a whole bunch of diversity challenges in engineering, but nothing seemed to change over 20 years. And so I got into the media space reluctantly, but frustrated that if we weren't putting positive role models in the media, changing that stereotype, the next generation were going to look up and go, that's not for me too. And engineers are creators. They solve problems, and they solve problems for people like them. And so if we don't represent that, you're only going to solve problems for the people who are in there, which is not you and I right now.
Yeah. So is sexism still in science?
There's plenty of sexism in science and engineering and many other places. But I think when you have a workforce that really doesn't have very much diversity, it just tends to be the norm, and it's a bit okay. I've called it out many times. In New Zealand, we've seen some very poor advertising, some very poor behaviour in workplaces, and I've been the person who's put myself out there and gone, it's not okay. We need to create safer spaces for our young people to come into. And especially our diverse young people. But when I have these conversations in these very typically male engineering teams, they don't see what the problem is, because it's always been like that. And so how do you have these great conversations going, would you bring your daughter here? No. Okay. So let's talk about why you wouldn't. And it's the booby calendars on the wall. Like it's still going around. And you go, if you just pull that calendar down, not going to take much. Yeah. You can view your boobs at home. Maybe not on your calendar in your workplace. And there's still a bit of that old school, and I still get lots of resistance of, well, this is how engineering was. If you can't deal with it, then don't come in. That's okay. We all get to change and move on with the times. It's a little bit of that still left.
Yeah. And then hopefully as some of those younger men and women come through, they're dominating in that space, and they are the change that, we
100%. But we can't rely on these young people to have that voice straight up.
No.
And so a lot of them will come to me and go, I've seen this behaviour. I don't feel confident because I want to get promoted. Can you come and help have a conversation with our leadership team? And so I'll come in and have a chat and go, hey, had to walk around, had to chat to your staff. Not going to name who, but how do we create a space that everybody wants to work in here?
Wow.
And so multi-generational is diversity too, right? Yeah. What used to be good for the old boys in engineering necessarily isn't that good for the young group coming through, of all genders and all nationalities.
I'm really tough on young men.
You?
Yeah, I am. Because I just I feel like, A, they should know better. And then if I do see, behaviours that I just don't think are acceptable, and they're not usually against me, right? Because I'm older and but if I witness it, then I can see that they're just not comfortable in speaking up and that sort of thing. So I call it, man, because I feel a sense of responsibility, just like you do. Yeah.
Totally. And if we don't say it, it may never get said. And I can't walk past something knowing that I could have potentially at least put a seed in somebody's brain going, actually, we could easily change this, and imagine what it would do for people.
Great. All right, we are just going to take a quick ad break, and when we return, we'll get Michelle's advice around education and how to help your children if they're struggling in the school system. Plus, a bit of a surprising confession, maybe from both of us. Stay tuned. So, Michelle, we want to get to the advice segment of our podcast now. And today I'm keen to talk to you about education, get your advice on how to help kids and parents get the best they can out of their education. But before we dive into that, you've got something, I believe, that you've never publicly talked about before, and it's to do with your own schooling. Are you feeling like you might want to share? I said I wasn't allowed to ask you anything, but you...
Yeah. So I think it's really hard for me as a positive role model who's got a PhD and all these certificates and all these degrees that people just have assumed that I am quite academic and school was my thing. And it wasn't. So I did not do very well at school. And it's why I'm so passionate about our education system now. It's not that I wasn't smart at school. I'm a very slow reader and writer, and I always have been. And it's because my parents weren't great readers or writers, so neither of my parents have high school education, and they had me very young. They were teenage parents. And so when you don't grow up around books or parents reading to you, you don't learn your alphabet. When you get to school at the age of 5, they assess you and they make an assumption about you pretty much for the rest of your life. You're in that box. Every time you pass to the next teacher, it's, oh, there's Michelle. She's the slow reader, right? Yeah. And so rather than go, what do we do to build her up? They just go, oh, she'll just always be behind. And I think carrying some of those assumptions for me through my schooling time meant that, my school never necessarily put some of that work into helping to build up my shortfallings, which were through no fault of my own or my parents. It just, we didn't have those skills. And then I found school really boring and quite hard when you can't... Because when I did school, it was all about big 3-hour exams at the end of the year. And I was so slow reading the question. And then I had to figure out how to write the answer. I never got through it all. I didn't really see the point. I didn't do very well. So I ended up... not getting the grades that people would think I would get. So I didn't do very well at high school at all. I didn't get enough grades to get into university or anything like that. And so I left school and I worked in a sports store and in a bar.
And that'll surprise people because, as you say, I mean, you are and were, so intelligent. And, if I was guessing, I would have thought that you were the geeky one in the corner that was doing all the extra work and all the rest of it. So the fact that school didn't work for you is actually a really powerful message, Michelle, to get out there, and I think it reflects on our education system, and you have a story to tell that is really powerful for a lot of parents and young people that are struggling at the moment and think that their future is already written because they're not doing that well at school.
Yeah, and look, I always say this because school, if you do well at school, it will help you and it will open doors, but they also had low expectations of me. I went to a terrible school where we were basically state housing fed into the school system. So a lot of children growing up in poverty, a lot of the people I went to school with are in prison for violent crime and things. These are just the kids I hung out with, but we weren't good kids because we had troubled backgrounds and parents who didn't have much money. But also then the school had really low expectations of us. So my careers advisor basically said, you'll do what my mum worked bars her whole life. She worked hospo, she worked nightclubs, minimum wage. And they were like, well, you'll probably be like your mum, right? You'll work hard, you'll work minimum wage, you'll build yourself up, maybe you'll manage a bar one day. I was like, cool, I've got career aspirations. Nobody said, maybe one day you'll be a top engineer and fly around, Wow. There was never that thing. And what was funny is my hobby at home was tinkering and pulling apart things and learning how to fix them because we had no money. And so you try to make things last for longer because you couldn't afford to buy new ones. But there's no subject in school that you were tested on that says, can you figure out how something works and fix it? And that was my strength. That was my skill. But I valued myself on, did I do well in my English test? And the answer is no. And so I had very low confidence in myself because we have these certificates that give you your value as a student. And my certificates were, you are not good enough. But in the meantime, I'm tinkering at home with a whole bunch of broken things, making them better, fixing them. And I didn't understand that that was actually my superpower, being able to use my hands to make things better. Which eventually, later on in life, I got a scholarship and was able to get a degree and get into a program that allowed... So this was in the UK, and there's a process called clearing, which allows, if there's a place left at a university, they can give it to a student who doesn't have the grades to get in. And they took me on as a wild card, and it was a hands-on polytechnic university, not one where you had to write exams. So I could build my solutions. I could go, I know the answer to this. Let me build it, not write it.
Yeah.
And that's where I thrived. And I wished that at school somebody had seen that I wasn't a great reader or writer, but I was a great hands-on builder of things. And that was my strength. And so the reason why I'm so passionate about education now is because our brains are different and we learn in different ways. And I'm not sure we always celebrate those different learning styles.
So do you think it's changed?
I still think written exams and academic performance is how we value. Yeah. If you look at... If we send a student to two pathways, it's either academic or it's trade, and we don't value them equally. Are you going to a trade school? Are you going to university? Are you doing your UE? Are you, you know, and you just go, they should be valued equally, but I don't think society does. And I still think that if you're going into a trade, it's not seen as elite as if you're going to a university.
Look, one of my girls, she won't mind me talking about this at all because she's actually, I've taught her to be incredibly proud of who she is and where she's at. She's in the final year of her electrical apprenticeship and she is dyslexic. And so she just went through a month of the most anxiety that she's had for years. By the way, when she went to do one of the training about 2 months ago, she won the award for the person that could put some switchboard together the fastest than anyone ever had, right, for the apprentice at her level. And she, you know, she failed the exam because she just couldn't read it. And she's been fully assessed and trying to get her a reader-writer and get them to understand that. And she's resitting. But it's just like, I mean, I've always taught her, and hence why she doesn't mind talking about her dyslexia and doesn't mind because I say to her, you're a genius. Yeah,
dyslexia is a superpower.
And I'm like, because it's harder than you and you succeed so big in life because she does. I say, you're actually smarter than most people.
Yeah, and our education system is catering to the average because that's what it's easy to teach. But we have so much neurodiversity. We have some incredibly smart young people who might not fit the current assessment model, but go on to be the tinkerers and the inventors and the people who change Aotearoa. Yeah. I wrote a book about it. It was called Number 8 Recharged. It was about 202 of New Zealand's top inventors, and the majority of them, over 90%, failed high school. And so so they were treated as failures. They always carried that stigma with them, and yet they've gone on to be, you know, the Sir Ian Taylors of the world. The, Peter Beck from Rocket Lab dropped out of uni. Like these amazing people who have these skills. And so, while subjects in schools are important, you never go. I don't go, "Hey, Paula, how did you do in your chemistry exam?" Right? I go, "What are your skills? Are you a people person? Like, what strengths do you have, and what skills do you have? Because that's actually what's important." Later on in life.
Well, I was a school dropout as well. So
we're in the cool club.
Oh, we're in the cool club, yeah. So, but like you, I value education a lot, and being given the second chance was the absolute turning point in my life. I certainly, like you, I just tell all young people, you know, like, let's try and find a different way of learning for you if that's what you need. Not every school suits every student. You know, let's try and see them as individuals. And hey, there's still teachers at that school back in the 80s. Who I stay in touch with, and I've just got so much respect for. But, you know, it didn't work for me. And like you, I just sort of felt like I had the stigma of failure.
You carry the baggage of all the failed exams you've done rather than celebrating all the great things that you are and you bring that you didn't get a certificate for.
Yeah. And then I do try and say, but isn't this an amazing country? Because you do get a second chance. You got a second chance. That scholarship gave you one, didn't it?
100%. But to take that second chance, you have to have not had your confidence knocked so much by the first failure that you're ready to take it on again. And what I see, and I do a lot of work with also adults, where they're carrying this baggage of failure from school that they just never want to put themselves in that space again. And so how do we build that confidence around how failure is actually a great way to learn? Because no, success is a terrible teacher, right? Because if you do it the first time you get it right, you didn't learn anything, you just sort of fluked it and got it right. But if you fail and you try again, that journey is incredible and the stories you can bring from that. But I don't think we're very good in New Zealand of celebrating failure. I think we're really good at kicking people while they're down and celebrating what we call this overnight success, which is never overnight. But how do we actually tell our story so that others can go, oh, that could be my pathway on my journey too? Because we don't always talk about all the things that didn't go great for us. We talk about the shiny good stuff because that makes great headlines.
Yeah, it does. And it can be, and then that kind of struggle and not quite finding your place for some time, that's okay as well.
It's okay. It is okay. And like I said, just figuring out what your thing is. Everybody's got a thing. It's why the world is a beautifully diverse place. Some people love accounts and receipts. I'm so grateful because my wallet is full of these receipts that I haven't scanned, but it brings joy to people, not to me. I'm grateful for that. Yeah. I love to build and do hands-on stuff. It's not for everybody. There'll be people who love data and sitting at a computer. We all have our little hole and peg that we fit in. Yeah. And it's okay to be different because the world needs that.
And you went into retail and bar work.
Yeah.
Well, that would have taught you some skills.
So much stuff.
Yeah.
So much.
That teaches you something about life.
Yeah. Really good life skills, actually. And, and it was really funny because I was working in the sports store and they said, what do you want to do? And I was the folding T-shirt girl and I wanted to move to shoes because the people with the shoes had the key for the shoe cabinet, which seemed like a big response, and so your world is only as big as you know. Yeah. And what I try and do now is expose young people to a world that may be bigger than the world that they see right now and where they might fit or where they might go. And, I work with a lot of kids who go, oh, I want to, be a truck driver because my dad's a truck driver and my neighbour's a truck driver. I'm like, cool, you could do that. Do you know there are other things? And, and they live in South Auckland and they've never been to the city before. So we go on a bus trip to the city and we go to the Sky Tower and they're like, whoa, this is right here. And you just go, your world is as big as you know. How do we help make your world bigger? You can still do whatever you want, but just showing you that there are things that nobody ever said to me, Michelle, you'll make a great engineer, even though I was building all this stuff my whole childhood at home.
Yeah. I remember I was a minister and I was giving out certificates to a whole bunch of young people who had just done a barista's course and their families were there and it was a really big occasion for them and they told me that for most of them it was the only certificate they'd ever got in their life and the only, sense of success. And I was giving the inspirational speech and I said to them, so, good on you, yay, everything else. I said, so who in here wants to own the cafe? Not one hand went up. Yeah. Who in here wants to actually be the employer and do that? Not one hand went up. And I went, why not? Why not you? Oh, I said, you've gone to the wrong school and, you're too brown and, no one thinks that you can.
Can't be what you can't see. Yeah. If you don't see those positive role models that have a journey that's similar to yours, you just don't see your pathway to that. It's really, and so it's why we try and do what we do, which is how do you provide positive, diverse role models in these STEM spaces, science, tech, engineering and maths, so a young person can go, I came from that place, or I did this thing, or they look like me, or... because I still don't think we're doing that well enough right now in the media space. If I ask you to name any famous engineer, or any famous scientist, it still goes back to Einstein and, crazy hair. And it's great. There's a place for a person like that, but it's actually much more diverse than that too.
Yeah. So if there's parents listening and school's not working for their kids right now, have you got any advice for them as to what they might do to try and engage them?
Yeah, so one, find positive role models of where school hasn't worked for a lot of amazing tech entrepreneurs, but also find their superpower. It might not be reading and writing at school, but they will have one thing or two things they really excel in. It's not about getting the certificate, it's finding about where they fit on the planet and what their strengths and their skills are.
Hey, thanks so much for sharing that, because I think it's important that people know that everyone's not born with the silver spoon, as the saying goes, and not every path has been a nice, easy, straight one.
And you don't know the paths that exist. Nobody in my family has ever, not even got high school, never mind got a degree.
Yeah.
So my parents didn't know that that was something that I might be able to do, or how would we afford it, or we didn't want to take on debt because we already didn't have any money. Like all of those pressures that you have when you grow up, not knowing the system, mean that you don't necessarily know how to enter the system.
Well, you're an amazing role model for so many young people, and our girls in particular, and our young women. So, they talk about you. So it's a good thing. Okay, let's change the pace a bit. So now, Michelle, you get to ask me anything as this little segment. So have you got a burning question that I may or may not answer?
Yeah, so obviously I followed your political career for a long time, and I'm sad that you've left politics. I thought you were amazing in it. But I would love to know what you would tell your 18-year-old self, because you just had a baby and you were in a very different space. And would you advise your 18-year-old self to go into politics? And if so, why?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, I would. I would tell my 18-year-old self.
Yeah.
Because even then, well, my husband would tell you I was stroppier and almost stronger. And although I lacked confidence because of that failure at school, and I was that girl that got pregnant at 17 in a small town, so, all of that sort of thing. So I didn't have the confidence. But the reason I would say she should is that I had a voice that I could articulate, and I think that we do need people that come from diverse backgrounds, like you say.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit similar, and, because Parliament changed a lot while I was in there even. And when I thought about going into politics, and particularly into National Party, it was like there's not that many people that look like me.
No.
That's
still,
still not enough.
Still isn't.
And still isn't. At least Parliament looks quite different now. But, there weren't me's, and I felt that it needed it. It's a bit like I say, and why not me? Why is the guy that did all the right schooling and went to and did all the, and everything else, why is he actually more entitled to a big, important job than I am?
Yeah.
Well, actually, he's not. I've got something to offer, and I've got something to give. And I also have a sense of myself that I can step up and into it. So I would advise me to do it. Yeah, I wish I knew now what I knew then, what I knew now, and all of that kind of stuff, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I would still do it again.
Yeah, but there is a certain personality type. There's certainly people I'd say don't, because there is a sense of resilience. And actually, from me being knocked around quite a bit, it meant that I knew I could stand up.
Yeah. So
when Parliament knocked me around, I went, another tosser in a suit trying to tell me what to do. Whatevers. Anyway. Okay, we like to end the podcast with a little segment called Zip It Sweetie, inspired by my infamous question time retort. And we are each going to share something or someone that has really killed our buzz this week. So mine, I'm going to go first, was actually it's quite in theme with what we've been talking about. So I have got a slightly croaky voice, and the reason I do was that I was doing some charity work this week, and I spent a lot of hours running a big fundraiser, actually for the Graham Dingle Foundation Education Project K, something I'm really passionate about as well. I ran an auction. The room had a few drinks, so I had to shout above them. Anyway, the next day I saw a couple of guys that I don't know that well, but I'd known from previous politics, and I stopped to say hello. They were having coffee, and one of them said, "Oh, you sound a bit croaky. Are you okay?" And I went, "Oh, no, it's literally because I was at this charity thing last night and I was shouting." And the other one went, "Oh, God, you do a lot for charity." And I went, "Yeah, I do. I love it." And the other one, this really sarcastic voice went, "Oh, well, that's not very humble." And at the time, I didn't say anything and I walked away, but it actually made me feel stink. And then I was like, oh, God, was I too big for myself? And so, you know what? You killed my buzz. And I wasn't being all full of myself. We can't even be a little bit proud of ourselves. Why? I don't know. Anyway, he killed my buzz.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
It sucks. People suck, don't they?
Sometimes.
Honestly. Yeah.
Okay, who or what do you want to say zip it, sweetie, to, Michelle?
So I'm really disappointed that social media has become really unsocial. And it's just become a place where you just attack. It used to be a place where, like, my social media is really diverse. The people that I follow on Twitter are all ends of the political spectrum. I think it's important to not have this sort of wormhole that you live in and see different views. But this week, there's a chocolate company that has come out with a chocolate and they've put Te Reo Māori on the front. And I've just gone, what has gone wrong with the world? My social media feed has just become this vile, vicious attack on a chocolate bar. And I'm just like, really? Because I don't know if you've noticed, the Ukraine, Taiwan, we have a whole bunch of big issues and everybody is upset because we've put Te Reo Māori on a chocolate bar for a short period of time. And I just don't really understand. If you don't like it, don't buy it, right? If it's not your thing, great. Give it a week. It's going to be back in English. It is one of our national languages. And it's really brought me down going, where has this opinion come from? Why are you attacking a chocolate bar?
Yeah.
Just don't buy it. If you don't like it, I'll buy 2 instead. We're all good. Yeah, I just a little bit sad.
You're eating for 3,
I am,
so you're perfectly entitled to eat 3
like I'm eating for 3. But yeah,
good on you. I like that one.
It's chocolate. Get over yourselves.
I like it a lot.
Just don't type it. Just leave your keyboard alone for a day.
So those, you negative ninnies out there that are criticising a blimmin' chocolate bar, you can zip it, sweetie.
Zip it, sweetie.
Right. Thank you so much for joining me today, Michelle. I know that you want to be a good role model, and admitting that you failed at school felt like you were going a bit against that, but I am sure that you opening up today will make you a role model for a whole new group of people. So I thank you very much. All the best for the big journey ahead with the twins. How exciting. I'm going to be looking for cuddles. I just want to let you know. If people want to hear more from you, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can. I'm still on social media. Just be nice. They can find me on all the social media channels. Just look at my name, Michelle Dickinson, or follow us, Nano Girl, our business, if you want stuff for your kids.
Wonderful. And they can hear you on Sundays, can't they?
And they can hear me, on Sundays, News Talk ZB. I do a 10:30 science segment.
Fantastic. So that's a wrap on another episode of Ask Me Anything. You can get in touch with me by emailing paula.bennett@nzherald.co.nz. Please feel free to send me through your questions for the podcast or any thoughts you have. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram or LinkedIn. You can also read my weekly column in the Herald on Sunday. Make sure you follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.